Let's get it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SchuZ Show. Hopefully you guys are having a phenomenal Tuesday. If you guys are tuning in on what is now a Wednesday for yourself, I hope you guys are having a phenomenal Wednesday as well. Make sure we got audio going. All right, we're good to go. So with that being said, though, on today's show, we've got a few different things to get into. Not a very jam-packed show like it was on yesterday, but we got some topics to get into on today's show. And as always, if you guys have any comments, topics, or questions, or whatever the case may be for me, make sure to leave those thoughts in the chat, and I'll make sure to address those comments as we come up throughout the show. Those comments will pop up on the screen, and we will go from there. Also, if you're tuning in on YouTube, make sure to smash that likes button for me. I always appreciate that, as that helps a lot with the show. So hit that likes button for me as well. But without further ado, it's time to get into some boxing topics I want to talk about today. So throughout this week, it's going to be a primary emphasis on recapping the Conor Benn, Chris Eubank show that went down on Saturday, while also transitioning, which will be about midweek next week, or about on Wednesday, midweek this week, talking about the massive rehab season card. So I'll be previewing that starting tomorrow's show. But for today, I've got two big questions for us. What is next for Chris Eubank Jr., and also what is next for Conor Benn? I'm going to kick off with a man who won the first fight yet lost the second fight. That's Chris Eubank Jr. When we look at Chris Eubank Jr., this is a man who has accomplished a solid amount of stuff for his career. And moving forward, he's only got X amount of days or years left, I should say, in his career. What would possibly make most sense for Chris Eubank Jr. in his final fights of his career? Well, I've got one answer. It makes a lot of sense. And when you look at all the people that he could possibly fight, one name stands out to me. His days at 160 are certainly over my eyes, and I think 168 makes perfect sense. And so if you are Chris Eubank Jr., who else is there that has a large profile, a big name, has the ability to sell out a massive arena while also being in what will probably be one of his final fights of his career as well? Well, that's none other than Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is obviously coming off of his loss to Terence Crawford, and we know that Canelo Alvarez only has, somewhere between 2 to 4 fights remaining in his career. Chris Eubank Jr. is also sitting in a very similar boat, and might I add this, Canelo Alvarez has talked about in the past about wanting to go out there and fight in the UK. Well, what a better partner than to have Chris Eubank Jr. Now, I know some people will say Hamza Shiraz and those type of things, but let's be honest. Chris Eubank Jr. and Canelo Alvarez would sell tremendously more than just about any other fight you could make at 168 realistically. And if I were Chris Eubank Jr., I'd be on the phone with Turki Al-Sheikh. I'd be on the phone with Canelo Alvarez's team and saying, you know what? Why don't we go get together? Let's go have one last big payday. Probably could sell out maybe Wembley Stadium, if not the very bare minimum, Tottenham Hotspur once again. And let's go make a big fight at 168 in 2026, whether that be around April time or May or even in the summertime. I think this makes perfect sense. Both guys are well past their prime. Both guys are in a position where they only have X amount of fights left, and it'd be a massive, massive amount of money they could both pull in. So if I were Chris Eubank Jr., there's only one fight I'm looking at right now, and that is Canelo Alvarez. I think it'd be a solid fight. It'd be an interesting fight. Go make it happen. I think it makes perfect sense for him. On the flip side of that, I propose to you Conor Benn. Conor Benn has now solidified himself as one of the biggest stars in British boxing and one of the biggest names in all boxing altogether now. And so I talked about on yesterday's show, Conor Benn has endless amounts of options. Here's the fight I want to see Conor Benn make next, and that is going with Ryan Garcia. Now listen, if you are Conor Benn, you could easily go position yourself and fight for a world championship. 147 has guys that he could easily beat without a shadow of a doubt, namely Mario Barrios, Lewis Crocker, two names just to make it very clear with those guys. But on top of that, if you are Conor Benn, I think you're going to go for another big payday. There's a man in Ryan Garcia out there who I think Conor Benn, Ryan Garcia, has been built up for this fight before. Both Ryan Garcia has called him out, and Conor Benn's gone back and forth and said, you know what, I want that man as well. And all I can say is this. Why not go for a massive payday at 147? I understand the world championships are certainly on the table, and I would not fault Conor Benn for going at that. I think he would actually become world champion if he pursues that. But if Ryan Garcia is there, why not go make a fight with Ryan Garcia? I think it'd be a very exciting fight. The build-up process would be phenomenal. And this is also, once again, a fight that Conor Benn could go out there and win. Obviously, it depends what Ryan Garcia we see. But out of all the fights at 147, that makes sense once again. I feel like this would be the biggest fight you could probably make at 147. And so if Conor Benn wants it, I know Ryan Garcia wants it as well. Why not come together and make a big fight between Ryan Garcia and Conor Benn happen in 2026? Both guys would get a nice payday for that fight, and both guys would continue to build and elevate their brands, and also would position themselves for a world championship shot. Now, as I said, would I fault Conor Benn for wanting to go after a Mario Barrios or go after a man like a Lewis Crocker and try to become world championship? Absolutely not. And I think both those routes make plenty of sense, and I'd like to see Conor Benn pursue that in the future. But if you're just going for money right now, and there's a big opportunity with a man in Ryan Garcia, why not go out there and pursue that? That's what I would do. Get a big payday, get a big fight underneath your belt, and then go look to become world champion. But either way around it, I do see Conor Benn becoming a world champion by the end of 2026. It's too easy of a weight class right now. I think he's going to make a lot of money and be one of the biggest stars, not just at welterweight, but in all boxing altogether now. Here's another one I want to propose to you. And actually, before I go any further, if you are tuning in, let me know in the chat. Who do you want to see Chris Eubank Jr. and who do you want to see Conor Benn fight next? I'm intrigued to see what you guys want to see there. And so let me know in the chat. Who do you want to see those two guys fight next in their upcoming fights? So one other one I'm going to give you guys, and also want to hear your thoughts on this one, is, well, we have a new world champion at heavyweight. That's Fabio Wardley, the man that beat Joseph Parker just on October 25th. And he's now been elevated to the WBO heavyweight world champion. And so I must ask now, where does Fabio Wardley go from here? Well, there's plenty of options on the table. Obviously, one that he probably would prefer would be Alexander Usyk, but that simply is not going to happen anytime soon. And so if you are Fabio Wardley and you want to defend that belt, who would you want to see him fight next? Well, let me make this very clear. If we throw out all the business, all the relational aspects out there, and we throw those all out of the window, and we just look at what is the best possible fight that we want to see Fabio Wardley do, I think we can all agree that we want to see Fabio Wardley and Itauma go out there and fight. That is the best fight to make for Fabio Wardley, as well as the biggest fight for Fabio Wardley. If we want the best possible fight at heavyweight, this is what we all want. Now, as I said, I get it. There are trainer issues there. There's business relation issues, so on and so forth. It would be a very difficult and tricky fight to make happen. But if it is possible to get done, and we can throw all those aspects out the window and just look at, okay, what is the best fight to make right now? I think we all would want to go out there and witness Fabio Wardley defend his belt for the first time against the young, budding superstar, Itauma. If that's not on the line, though, why not go out there and fight Filip Hrgović? That's the one I think would probably end up happening right there. I think Filip Hrgović has solidified himself. It'd be a good another fight for Fabio Wardley, a good first title defense, which I think he would win with quite ease. There's also Zhilei Zhang is in the mix. You have other guys as well. But if we're going to go make the best fight possible, the biggest one, the best payday for Fabio Wardley, I want to see him go out there and fight Itauma. That's the fight I think would be perfect. I know British fans like that, and I think American fans would get behind that as well. And then the winner of that fight would go out there and fight Alexander Usyk in 2026. But as I said, I get it. Lots of stuff are behind that possibly happening. But if we could toss all that out the window and just make the best fight happen, that'd be Fabio Wardley, Itauma in 2026. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the chat, though. What fight would you want to see Fabio Wardley do in his very first title defense of his WBO Heavyweight World Championship? Interesting news came out today in regards to Terence Bud Crawford. And this doesn't matter anymore. Obviously, Jake Paul has an upcoming opponent. It's Anthony Joshua. We talked about it yesterday's show. Yet, it has now been confirmed by Nikisa saying he said this on the show today. Terence Crawford agreed to Jake Paul fight, but they went with Anthony Joshua. Here's the exact quote. There were probably 30 fighters who accepted. AJ being one of them, Terence Bud Crawford being another. AJ is the one that we came to an agreement on. Crawford was 100% in. Well, let me make this very clear. Had Terence Bud Crawford been given the opportunity to fight Jake Paul, it might have been a bigger beatdown than Anthony Joshua. And here's why. When I look at Anthony Joshua, what he will do to Jake Paul in the ring that night, it's going to be a situation where Anthony Joshua will get that easy KO, and it probably should happen within 2 or 3 rounds of the fight. It's going to be a lightning quick KO. Jake Paul is going to be knocked out just like Francis Ngannou was, and we move on. Terence Bud Crawford would be more than capable of doing the same thing, but the way that Bud Crawford typically operates is beating a man down with a lot of brutal punches, working his man down, and then getting him in a position where he finishes them off, as we saw with so many guys in the past. Terence Bud Crawford will probably dismantle Terence Bud Crawford will probably dismantle Jake Paul in 3 to 4 rounds, and it would be a brutal, brutal beatdown. Jake Paul would be beat up real bad in that fight, and so I get it. That fight would be a very tough fight. I think that actually would be a more difficult fight than the AJ fight. But hey, Jake Paul offered it, which is very interesting. Hats off to him. But I see why they probably went with AJ there, although both of them obviously it's going to be a tough night for Jake Paul at the office. Just keep that very clear. Some other boxing news that came out today in terms of fight-related news. TSZYU is making his return on December 17th against the undefeated Anthony Velasquez. Now, let me make this clear. I like this idea. I've been very critical of the way TSZYU's been managed over this past year or so. I think the way that what they did with him in terms of how they went from the Fundora fight to the TSZYU fight to the tune-up fight back to Fundora, I think the entire situation there was messed up. I think they did TSZYU didn't do him justice. I think they hurt him badly in the situation. I've been very critical of that. I think if TSZYU will ever get to a place where he is competitive again, it's going to require 3 to 4 tune-up fights and slowly build himself up the right way once again. This is a good start. Solid opportunity. Should be an easy win for TSZYU there. Then we have another news came out. Callum Smith, David Morrell purse bids have now set. The WBO has scheduled November 25th purse bids for the Callum Smith, David Morrell interim light heavyweight title mandatory defense. The auction scheduled for 10 a.m. Eastern time will be live streamed. The minimum bid is $300,000. So, solid fight going down right there. Callum Smith, David Morrell. It is going to be a very fun fight to watch in 2026. I think that's actually going to be a very good fight to make right there. So, that's going to we should have more clarity coming soon. Probably within the next week or two, we'll have the news come out from that. And then we'll end up having this fight get booked and locked in. So, big news there. I'll keep you guys posted on that news. Last thing on today's show. Confirmed news is this. Raul Curiel and Alexis Rocha will rematch on January 16th in the Palm Desert, California. Jorge Chavez versus Manuel Flores will rematch on the undercard as well. Love this fight right here. Raul Curiel was on the show probably about 3 months back now, and he talked about he wants this rematch. He wants this fight to happen. He's got it now. It goes down in January. It should be a phenomenal fight right here between Raul Curiel and Rocha. So that fight's locked in. A solid undercard as well being put together, going down in California on January the 16th. All right, with that being said, though, I don't have any more topics on today's show, and I also don't see any more things in the chat. And so that will be it for today's show. I hope you guys have a blessed rest of you guys Tuesday and having a great Wednesday if you guys are tuning in on a Wednesday. I will be back live tomorrow morning in just about 12 or so hours. So make sure to tune in on that show as well. I'll see you guys then, but may God bless you guys all. I'll see you guys back live tomorrow. SchuZ out, and God bless y'all.